You're welcome back. This is Newsfile, it's your most authoritative news analysis show. And as I informed you earlier, I do not have a take because I had a long introduction in which the first part, which is the comment from the from the Court of Appeal, is my take. So take that. Good morning, Asan Kuma. Right now, my guests are seated, and we're waiting for Kukubako, who is also right here. His documents are in, and he's being prepared to take his seat. So my guest this morning will be Abdul Malik Kukubako, Editor-in-Chief of the New Crusading Guide newspaper, who is getting ready to take his seat. Professor Justice Bawole, who is head Department of Public Administration and Health Services Management, University of Ghana Business School. Prof, good morning, and thank you very much for joining us. Good to have you. Right. Also in the studio is Dominic Nitwo. He's the Honorable MP for Bimbilla and Minister for Defense. Thanks for your time, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Great. Also in the studio is Mahama Ayarga. He's MP, Boku Central, and Chairman, Subsidiary Legislation Committee of Parliament. Honorable, good morning and welcome to Newsfile.
Good morning.
Thank you very much. So, as you already know, the issues are clearly noted, and your views and comments are welcomed on all of our platforms, as always. But as I can see, there are already messages that are being sent in on the issues, even before we started. So, this is how I like to start. And Dominic, let me read this before I get you a question. This is a question, a view sent in by a listener. This listener and viewer says that he's been to this the Flagstaff House, now Jubilee House. He's been there 3 times since the NPP assumed office. Now, he's also been to the U.S. Congress, and he's also been to the Wisconsin State Assembly, and he's doing a comparison. He says that the first impression I got from the main reception through the various security checkpoints and the VIP's office is that there were too many people idling about at various points. I didn't get the same impression in the U.S. Congress or Wisconsin State Assembly. Efficiency and productivity must be exemplified at the presidency if the entire civil and public service are expected to be productive and efficient. 998 staff for one presidency? I beg your pardon. How do you justify this? And before you start to compartmentalize them and tell us, you know, there's this and there was this already, I will remind you that the NPP, whilst in opposition, was very, very vocal of the NDC, John Mahama's, 600 and is this 78 or 90, 87, and said, among other things, that they were needless. How do you justify what you have now?
Samson, a very good morning to your listeners and good morning to the people of Ghana. I would have thought that, as your tradition would always be, you give us the opportunity to wish the MPP people, and today we have been dedicated to the Congress of the MPP because clearly we are having a regional Congress across the country, except in about 2 regions. Over this weekend and the whole of next weekend, we're having regional congresses. So I thought that maybe we have been following that, but be as it may, some other topics may have overtaken the shine out of our Congress. So let me take the opportunity to wish all of them. First of all, let me wish the people of Ghana, let me thank the people of Ghana for giving us the mandate, and also wish the people of Ghana well. Of course, my party and all those contesting. I wish all of them well. It is good that for once we're having a Congress across the whole country, which is so peaceful, which does not even make news. That alone is a lot of news. That we're having a Congress and people are not carrying cordials, people are not fighting, people are not beating one another, just allowing democracy to take place. So we should congratulate the MPP for conducting incident-free congresses across the whole country, even as late as yesterday and the day before, they are conducting a few isolated constituency elections, and it's not making any news because the media is not getting any news because nobody's fighting. But I wish all of them well, all the contestants, I wish them all well, and pray that the best will come out of it. They should look at the track record of every contestant, what they have done, and then vote them based on that. But something, I beg to disagree a little bit with your introduction and with your first take. I don't think that should be the most important topic of the day, but you've chosen that as the first one. I think the most important topic would have been the two leading ones, the SNIT, the OBS story. That's my view. And of course, the double salary allegations against my colleague MPs. This one, I think, clearly is a rare heroin, it's an equalization thing. Somebody decided to put it out there. But we should be worried as a country how it has come about. And this is the second time. And I think my colleague would bear with me and agree that we should be worried as a country that a document goes to Parliament. It's a public document because it will become a public document. And the first thing, people who have sworn an oath to protect and sworn an oath for secrecy will leak it to the media. For whatever reason, we don't know. That's the first point that I will look at before coming to the substance of the matter. I think that it is something that Parliament should look at. And I think Parliament will do and is doing itself a lot of harm if sensitive documents that are yet to be laid on the floor is being leaked to the media. It's not good at all. And I think the Parliament should look at it from that angle. It's hurting Parliament. People will shy away from sending sensitive documents to the MPs who are representatives of the people, because why should I take a document to Parliament the next day is being leaked to the media when the issues will be distorted? Clearly, this particular issue is being distorted for equalization purposes because of the double salary thing. But it will not make any news anyway. After here, I think the story will die because of the issues that will come out. First of all, the person who sent you that was comparing apples to oranges. You don't go to the Flagstaff House. If he had said he had gone to the White House, and then the Flagstaff House, the White House is a seat of government in the United States. He hasn't told us what happens at the White House. He's comparing the Congress and not the Parliament of Ghana, but then the seat of government in Ghana to the Congress of the United States. Yeah, we're comparing two things. So clearly he should go back and tell us when he went to the White House, what happened. That's the first thing. So you went to the White House, what happened there? He didn't tell us that. He takes the Flagstaff House and then he takes Congress in the United States and starts comparing them. He takes the Senate and starts comparing them. There are two different things. That's the first disagreement I have with him. The second disagreement I have with you and him is that nobody is defending what is wrong, and not the president will not defend what is wrong. The ministers will not defend what is wrong. I will not sit here and defend if there's anything that has been wrong in these appointments. I want to ask that a year and a half ago, or a year and some 4 months ago, did you have a minister in charge of creation of the new regions and his entire staff of more than 30 people? Clearly no. Did you have a minister in charge of special projects? Clearly no. Did you have a project called One District, One Factory, and the entire staff that will man that One District, One Factory? Clearly no.
Of course, we did not have 110 ministers.
I'm coming.
Right.
I'm coming. Did you have One District, one village, one dam? Clearly no. Did you have the authorities? You had SADA, but did you have the other authorities? Clearly no. Apart from maybe SEDECOM, that was in the central region, that was really ineffective. So it is clear from day one that you are not going to have the same figures. Clearly. So anybody who wants us to look at the figures and say it must be the same, clearly is deceiving the public. What the NPP came to meet were not 678 staffers. There were 678 people working within the presidency. What the MPP came to meet and added to it was 678, and they added 292 appointments. MPP added 292 appointments, and this includes all their staffers who work at the presidency, 27 of them, and I repeat the word, 27 staffers. It is stated as if MPP appointed 998 staffers. No. MPP appointed 27 staffers. MPP appointed ministers who are working under the office of the president.
It's very interesting you don't want to deal with the total, but you want to segment.
No, I'll come to the total.
You see, in President Mohammed's time, you resisted any attempt to do that kind of segregation, and you kept the total number. And I told you, I'll be reading to you some of the comments that you guys made, as in the NPP.
Oh, I will. I'll be very happy.
So it is only fair to expect that you will not say, because there are 9 ministers, who are in there, and this number, and so the president has not done too much.
No, but Samson, I've not yet come to that conclusion. Samson, Damboche and his staff are not working at the presidency, but they are part of this 998. Osafo Mafu and his staff are not working at the presidency, but they are part of this 998. The Minister for Procurement and her staff are not working at the presidency, but they are part of this 998 that has been channeled as if all of them are working at the presidency. That is the point I'm making to you, that all the ministries, all the departments that have been newly created, none of them are working directly within the Flagstaff House. So it's not as if when you go to the Flagstaff House, you have 998 people working at the Flagstaff House.
I don't want us to prolong an argument, but or to drag it, but if you're a minister of state and you are within the presidency, and yet you still say they are not working from the presidency, I don't understand that.
No, but the impression is being given as if when you go to the Flagstaff House, you have 998 people working there and they are staffers. That's what I'm trying to let you know.
But that's what it is.
Why?
If you are a minister of state and you are working from the presidency, and you and your staffers are within this list, that's what it is.
No. If I go to the Flagstaff House today, and I want to find out how many workers are working within the precincts of the Flagstaff House, we don't want to misinform the public. This is a platform that we should educate the public. If I walk to the Flagstaff House today, and I say the Jubilee House today, and I want to find out how many people are working within the Jubilee House, I'm not going to get 998. That's the first thing I want to point out to you.
So the first thing you are pointing out is that
figure is wrong.
President Akufo-Addo was wrong when he issued this letter pursuant to the Presidential Office Act and gave this quantum or number of people as those that he is working with. He was wrong.
Can you list the can you read the letter the president sent? Did he say they were working within the Jubilee House? That's the first point I want to make. He never said that. They are working under the office of the president, not at Jubilee House. There's a whole lot of difference between working at the office of the president and working at Jubilee House. Your introduction made it seem as if 998 people are working within the Jubilee House. Because you said if you go to the Flagstaff House or the Jubilee House, you are going to get 998 people. And I'm saying it's wrong. It's not true. That's the first point I've made. I never said they are not working under the office of the president. In fact, under the office of, it's a very big body.
The title of the letter to Parliament is Annual Report to Parliament on Presidential Office Staff.
Yes. That's correct.
Presidential Office Staff.
But the office is not
the presidential office. Is the Jubilee House.
But Samson,
I just said I don't want us to drag this. So if Samson, you can quickly,
Samson, all I'm trying to point out to you is that before we had one office until the former president moved it to Jubilee House, and that office was a custom. We had almost all those that the former president brought, 678 working from that physical location. Today we have 3 offices, and they are all working under the office of the president. The Jubilee House, the annex, what we call castle annex, and the castle itself. So these 3 physical locations, all of them are working as part of the office of the president. but they are not physically located at the Flagstaff House. So I want the people of Ghana to know that when you go to the Flagstaff House today, you are not going to get 998 people. I also want the people of Ghana to know that the former president bequeathed the NPP with 678 people, who are mostly civil servants. The NPP appointed 298 people. So if you are going to take Akufo-Addo on the appointments, let's deal with 298 people. Because he didn't appoint all the 678. So let's take the 298 people and break them one by one and find out whether he was wrong in appointing them or right in appointing them. Okay. That figure is 292.
Okay. Now, when you were in opposition, among those of you who were commenting, Kweku Kwating, who had, once been the government spokesperson on finance and economy under the Akufo administration, this is what he said about John Mahama's 678 list. As far as he is concerned, the list was too long, and he says that ministers are also to act as presidential advisors. We don't need any of these presidential staffers. What kind of advice, for instance, on finance, the president needs that the finance minister and all his deputies cannot give? It's a question he asked. I want to find out if that is still relevant today. Then we later turn around and complain of wage bill. Whether the previous administration did the same thing or not is not the issue of discussion. We should talk to the president that we don't need all these people and not get into the issue of it happened in the previous administration. Okay? So...
But something I still agree with him.
You still agree with him?
100%. I still agree with him because there are 27...
What he was complaining about has not happened.
I'm saying there are 27 presidential staffers that we had. Is it more or less than the previous one? That's the first question you want to ask. Out of the 292 people that have been appointed freshly by this president, because he came to meet a certain number, 678, he appointed 292. 27 of them are presidential staffers. Are we saying as a country 27 people who are presidential staffers do various things for the president are more? Remember, for example, Eugene is stated as a presidential aide. He's not put there as communication director in the letter that was sent. For example, all those working in the communication, for example, are all there. All the assistants, including the military assistants, and including all of them are stated there as presidential aides. So I'm saying to you that, are we saying 27 people who are presidential staffers? It's the biggest figure we have heard before.
What are you saying about the 256 junior political appointees in this list?
And I'm saying to you that,
first of all, focusing
when you say junior, I said 27 presidential
staffers. There's another group that is tagged as junior political appointees.
They are not junior.
Sorry.
Is that what it says? Check it well.
Yeah, you...
I'll be very surprised when you use the word junior political appointee, because that is not true. They are segmented into we have assistants, we have executive assistants.
Exactly.
We have presidential aides, we have senior presidential aides. So they cannot be categorized as junior.
It is there.
I'm coming. I can understand where you are coming from. I can understand where you are coming from. But what I'm trying to say to you is that with the presidential staffers, there are 27. All the others have certain jobs. What I want you and myself to do to help the public is to go into this number and find out whether it is bloated, as you are trying to allege, is the biggest in our history. I said no.
I'm not alleging. I'm simply asking questions.
They are not.
Yes, Mama Yaga, what do you say? What do you say?
Well, I mean, I think every 4 years we have this discussion.
I know some of you are interested in some of the designations of the persons in there, but if we could stay away from that, lady in waiting and all those, you could skip that.
And then you know me, I don't get so petty. Every year we have this discussion, and every year it seems that the numbers keep increasing. We're hoping that with the NPP government we'll see a decrease in the number. First, because of what you've said about their own political posture when the over 600 number was released under John Dramani Mahama's government. But unfortunately that hasn't happened. But I was even expecting a further decrease because President Akufo-Addo has established regional development authorities, which I thought would take on many of the tasks that the presidency would have been responsible for, or some other sector ministries would be responsible for. And so that will further, result in a decrease in the numbers. But unfortunately, in addition to the fact that we have these regional development authorities, which is creating a whole new setup that will be at the taxpayers' expense.
Of course, and people are appalled because there is already 110 ministers.
I'll get to that. And of course, we have this, unprecedented, record-setting number of ministers, which everywhere I go in West Africa, frankly speaking, this I'm not joking, I'm in the ECOWAS Parliament. Anytime we're sitting as MPs and joking, they always say, your country, hey, 110 ministers, how many are you? And then we'll laugh about it and all that. So
how many are you? Less than the size of Lagos.
That's they asked us, they're like, you should put the whole of Lagos state government together. They didn't number the number of ministers that we have.
That is not true.
So that is an issue. But let me just respond directly to some of the issues that my honorable colleague has raised. First, about leaking sensitive documents. This is not a sensitive document. This is one of the ordinary public records. And usually, if you intend that a document should be confidential, you write on it confidential. I'm holding a copy. I don't see confidential written anywhere.
Well, in their time and in their recent time in opposition.
No, I know. They've been so sensitive to documents going to the public.
And Patrick Bama was leading this charge and demanding the release of the list from President Mahama.
Yeah, I'm saying that.
And later, when it was released, we got to know what it was.
Yes,
so
it's not
new.
First, it's not. No, let's even at the very basic. It's not a confidential document.
Right.
There's nothing written confidential on it.
Okay.
So indeed, I can go to Cantonment to make copies and stand there, and anybody who wants can come and take a copy from me. I can print a truckload and send to my constituency as part of the records from Parliament to educate them on what has happened in Parliament. So don't be worried about that. Don't be hypersensitive to issues like this. Secondly, White House, yes, if you go to White House, you see a lot of people, but many of them are tourists, because the White House is also a tourist site. So you see people walking around, mostly tourists and tour guides showing them around. You don't even allow people, even these documents you say are too sensitive to be displayed. I don't know about asking school children to go and walk around the presidency and then have a sense of what is happening there. But let's get on very serious issues. I have a problem with the list and the way that in the past and today we are accounting for the numbers. I take a principled position that the Minister of State at the presidency is not a presidential staffer. That for me is a principled position. That if you're counting presidential staffers and you add a Minister of State who is at the presidency as a presidential staffer, that's a mistake. So the numbers don't add up. Because presidential staffers are those appointed under Act 463.
Yeah.
And ministers are not appointed under Act 463. The president is not appointed under Act 463. The vice president is not appointed under Act 463. So they cannot be presidential staffers. So we need to reconcile the figures. And this has happened not just under the NPP. It doesn't reduce the numbers for the NPP because the same approach was adopted when counting the numbers under John Mahama and under Tamils and under everybody. But today I'm saying that, look, I take a principled position that the numbers don't add up because by law, many of the people who are added as presidential staffers are indeed not presidential.
So the 9 of them should be taken out.
So the ministers should be taken out because
there are 9 of them.
They are 9. They are not presidential. And go back to John Mahama's record. Also take out the ministers and go back to Atamils and take out the ministers so that you can get the actual numbers. Then you talk about ministers and ministers at the presidency and then their staff.
So clarify this for me.
Yes.
So those ministers.
Yes.
They are staffers.
They are not staffers.
Who are also
they are ministers.
No, I didn't say they are staffers.
Yes.
Those ministers,
yes,
they are staffers,
okay,
those who work for them,
yes,
the officers who work for them,
yes,
who are appointed under the Act,
yes, yes,
they would,
any other person who is appointed under Act 463 is a presidential staffer, whether you are there serving a minister or you are serving the vice president.
So why don't we make it? Why don't we make it such that if the ministers shouldn't come under this, then they should. Their staffers too should come under the normal, staffing structure that the regular ministers have, so to speak.
That is the choice that President Akufo-Addo has made. He has decided that he wants to have so many ministers in his presidency who are designated ministers of state at the presidency. So he then has to recruit staff to service those ministers.
Okay.
He talked about why should there be, because there's a new minister responsible for the creation of regions, and he has staff working with him, that justifies the increase in the numbers. This function could have been performed by the local government minister. Ordinarily, you don't need the minister for creation of regions. You just need to assign the role to the minister for local government, and she could have done it very competently. Special projects, you don't need ministers at the presidency implementing special projects. The presidency is not for implementing special projects. I take a principal position on this matter. The various sector ministries and their agencies are responsible for implementing projects. It's as simple as that.
Okay.
The presidency is more of a policy, center and diplomacy and etc. It's not a project implementing center. So when people go to the presidency and try to drag projects there so that they too can also implement projects, they are turning the presidency into something else.
Okay.
Then let one district, one dam, one village, one dam, one district, one factory. I wouldn't have a problem if the village dams were being constructed. If they were constructing the village dams now, and they said they have engaged 1,000 people at the presidency, and every morning they are busy constructing dams. Look, I will say take 1,000 more, workers, so that you can do more dams in the villages.
I'm aware that.
Let me finish.
570 letters have been issued, or contractors have been. Last week, contractors were issued appointment letters to go and construct 570 dams. So you'll be rest assured. But we'll still not appoint 1,000.
Thank you. Can we hear from Kweku now?
I'm finished. No, I'm just addressing the issues.
Yes, but
yes. And then the last point about development authorities and all those things, and then the site where they work being an issue. That's not an issue. It has always been the case since Rawlings, and I think later on.
So what should we do? What should we do? The thing is that what should be the solution? Like the appointment of ministers, the constitution does not provide a cap. Like this one too, the Presidential Office Act does not provide a limit. So what
it says the limit. The act says the limit should be determined by the president.
Exactly.
So if we now have close to 1,000, that is the decision of President Akufo-Addo.
Yeah. So what is the solution?
I want a size that is 1,000.
What's the solution? Should we legislate and say you can't have more than this number?
You see, it's not everything. It's not everything that you legislate. Yeah. You need to leave leaders with some space to use their discretion. Remember, at the end of the day, they are accountable to the people, and the people will take a political decision whether or not they should stay in office based on their judgments, the quality of their judgments.
Thank you.
So yes. I won't say that we should start everything. Oh, let's limit them to this. Let's limit them to that.
Thank you.
We expect that once we elect them to office, they also have a sense of the economy. They have a sense of the situation and
all right. Thank you.
What is a reasonable staff size?
Yes. What do you say?
But let me just.
There is a general, revulsion, so to speak, particularly if you monitor on social media, is terrible. And I can tell you that the NPP defenders have gone into hiding. Well, they can't seem to defend this properly.
Koku do a good defense.
And I'm here.
Koku you do a good defense. I mean, I trust you.
I
trust you. You do a very good defense.
You say that?
I've said it.
Koku do very good defense.
Yes.
On 15th of February 2014, we did a similar discussion here.
Yeah.
It was on the 2013 list that President Mahama had submitted to Parliament, and we had the opportunity to discuss the issue here. You referred to something that Mr. Kweku Kwatin was supposed to have said.
Right.
It was in connection with that particular list.
Right.
I had my take, and I would want to quote what I said on this program.
Right.
I said, I think the controversy out there is needless and uninformed. And there's an element of dishonesty and hypocrisy driving the debate across the political divide. This is my Joy Online. My Joy Online, date 15 February 2014. I proceeded then to indicate the categories that constitute the list.
Right.
And I made the point that the number of presidential staff employed by the president at the office is distinct from the employees in the public service assigned or attached to the president's office. I further made the point that the staff on assignment from the public service draw their salaries from their respective agencies and not from the presidency. This is what I said 15th February 2014. If you play back, you will see that we went and brought documents to establish what the process had been. Numerically, based on this list, and very interesting points have been made here, Nana Akufo-Addo's 998 is the highest, numerically. You had the 2013 being 678. That's the last one I have checked. My records at the parliament, my sources rather, indicate that 2015, no submission was done. Indeed, 2016, it is this incumbent government that should have been submitting it. Okay?
Yeah, because it's to be done annually.
Yes, so this government, this Akufo-Addo administration should be submitting 2016. That has not been done. 2015, which should have been submitted by Mahama administration, was not done. It stops at 2014, submitting the 2013 one. So far, that's my checks.
There's a possibility that more numbers had been added to.
Yes, but I'm not even raising that as an issue immediately.
Okay.
The Mills administration, that is for 2012, incidentally was submitted by President Mahama because, you know, he took over in July, was 661. Mr. Rawlings, the record I have here is the 1999, 6th January, when he was submitting it to Parliament. The figure was 754. Now, what is interesting is this debate we are having. 2003, November 14th, if you go for the Hansard, the issue of the numbers came up during the parliamentary debate. And the issue of the categorization so came up. This is what Alhaji M.A. Yakubu, NPP Member of Parliament for Yendi. And I can't read all, but he raised the point that the question of the high strength of the staff of the office of the president is not unique to the present presidency, because NDC members in parliament had raised it and were angry that the number that Kufuor had brought, which was then 600 and something, I'll check the number for you, was too much. And he said it has become something that this house has worried about for quite a long time. So he goes on, perhaps the house can give a definitive recommendation requiring that the question of the staff of the office of the president should be investigated. It could well be that some staff were assigned by certain departments or certain ministries, even at their present jobs, or some other way will be found so that the presidency does not seem to look like having too many employees. Because if you look at some of the categories, you will find that there are public servants assigned to the office of the president. If you take the accountant general, for instance, you normally have accountant general staff in various organizations at all over the place. They still may be regarded as staff of the Attorney General's department. Therefore, I'm jumping. Therefore, it should be looked at as if now we are having some wondrous figures. Therefore, it should not be looked at as if now we are having some wondrous figures. Over 700 for the office of the president, as if something funny is happening there. I think that we ought to have a very definite position so that in future we will not be worrying about these numbers as if they are numbers coming from one office. With this, Mr. Speaker, I support some of the issues have come up here. If you look at the list, and all the list, we are talking here of people
We
who...
always leave the solution to the future.
Yes, but it's pursuant to Section 11 of the Presidential Office Act,
Right.
1993, that's Act 463. That's where you are appointing. Now, the report covers the following areas. It's almost the same format. If you go back to the 2018 and all that, it says the report, because 2018 is the 2017, what we are dealing with is 2017.
Right. Yeah.
Is the current. It says the report covers the following areas: the number of presidential staff employed at the office of the president during the period, the ranks and grades of such staff, and employees of other public services assigned to the office of the president. It is only fair, if you want to have an informed, educated discourse, to go for all the categories. Then you can move beyond criticizing each category if you have a problem with it. It's only fair. It's an intellectual approach. Forget what you see or read on social media or you hear on radio. I've heard a lot, and I didn't start hearing them today. In the last 10, 15 years, it's been a recycling of the same uninformed, sometimes needless debate.
So the breakdown again, as has been done by the letter of the president that goes to Parliament, there are 706 public sector employees.
And you know where they are? Some at the Jubilee House, some at the Independence Square, some at the Parks and Gardens, some at Piduasi Lodge, some are in the various government guest houses, because some are cleaners, sanitary laborers, some are...
And then there are 256 junior political appointees. There are 27 presidential staffers, and then there are 9 ministers of
That's
state.
the category they decide to give to it. It's 200 and something. You have, some of them are drivers.
Yes.
Some are stewards, scattered around. The impression you get sometimes when you listen to the uninformed and the uninitiated is to the effect that all these numbers are located at the Jubilee House. That we must clear so that we can have an informed basis to interrogate the issues. That wouldn't mean that there are no problems with some of the list. But you must first clear the mist.
Okay.
Take away the cloud.
You say this number is unprecedented.
It is the highest.
Yes.
It is the highest. So you then subject it to
So do
scrutiny.
you have any problems with it?
Any problem in what sense?
As in,
See, I had a problem with the one
what's your critique? What's your commentary?
That is why I read the Hansard. That if we want to do the right thing, then let's see all these names, those from the Accountant General, Auditors, Audit Service, all of them should not be included. In any case, they are already working at their places.
Right.
If we are going strict by the law, but that has been the practice, the convention, all administrations have decided that, look, even those, no, please, let me finish. Even those public servants or civil servants that have been assigned to the office of the president, we will capture them under Act 463. If we think that makes the number huge.
Right.
If you want to go strictly, then it's as if the ministers, for instance, ministers are not appointed under this act, under 463. But there are ministers here, list of ministers of state at the presidency. They are listed here.
Which has been the standard over the years.
It's been the standard practice. So if we want to clarify, to clear the mess, then say that go strictly according to Act 463.
Do you think Akufo-Addo could have done less with what he had to appoint?
Well, you see, you remember the 110 ministers idea. My view was that it was too huge, but it depends on.
And
the
you still
vision.
have expectation that a reshuffle should bring it down.
I can tell you to come down. That's something people should not worry. It is going to come down, but that depends on the president and his own sense of timing. But I'm saying that I said it was too big, too huge. But it's reflection also of a vision and mission that a particular president has. Now, he can be vindicated only after the results have been assessed. And indeed, that results are assessed by the electorate. Finally. So my view was that whilst I had wished that it would have been around 90 or 80, the president, who is, and Kububaku is not the advisor to the president or even the president, he decides that, look, this is what I want, 110. You manage the situation with the 110. You succeed, everybody forgets the number.
Are you suggesting slightly, remotely, that a president, because they have unfettered, right to make this appointment, can decide that I want to appoint, 500 ministers, and we should say it is the result that will justify whether we are not happy with it or we are?
Pass a law to stop the president from establishing the number of, in fact, the APRM, African Peer Review Mechanism, they proposed a situation where we will have a law telling the president which ministries and how many ministries he can appoint and establish. Okay, but it wasn't accepted.
Okay.
So my view is that you leave that one to the desires and the outcome of an election.
So your answer to my question as to whether or not he could have done with less number is what?
No, it's up to the president.
Okay.
He could have done with less. He could do with more. I don't see why I should be the one answering that question. To be honest with you, the point really is that
we should have desires.
No, but
we should have
took,
wishes
no,
as citizens.
No, but
and then, like you said, they can go ahead and do what they want because the constitution does not put a limit.
The public servants and the civil servants, how many are they there? Really speaking, how many? They are about 700.
Yes, the total number of public sector employees there, 706.
Yes, they belong to their respective agencies.
Right. So
they still are paid from those agencies.
Right. So, Prof, this is my question.
So perhaps what you are saying is that Akufo-Addo, the 200 and something, Akufo-Addo should have appointed maybe 100 and something. That's what you are saying. I said that would be an endless debate.
Okay. The question then is, if this number already exists as public sector employees and they are taking care of the job of the presidency, do you feel that the president needs almost 300 more to assist them to do the job within this the Jubilee House and wherever is named as the presidency
300
under the act?
But you see, the problem with your question is this: some of those 700,
I said near 300 because you have junior political appointees of 256, and then you have presidential staffers of 27, and then you have a ministerial list of 9. So if you add that, you have almost 300. That's what I'm saying.
Something. Let me help. Let me help. It's the records are there. We are holding it while we engage in.
Okay, so yes, Prof.
The figure I've been given.
The one doesn't want me to.
Oh no. We are here to educate the people.
You see,
I got it here too.
The figure is clear. It says that breakdown of civil public service staff at the office of the president. Then you have the breakdown, chief directors 2, administrative class 21, executive, clerical class, blah, 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 secretarial staff, and they are 117. 117.
Which staff?
Breakdown of civil public service staff at the office of the president. They are 17. Then you now go to presidential household staff. Presidential household staff, and they are 290.
And you know who they are and where they are located?
They are at the residence of the various president, vice president, the president, and then Peduasi Lodge. They are responsible for the household activities.
Yes.
That's
what I meant.
So they are not all
almost 300.
No, there's no. For me, my issue is not where they are located. Where they are located. Ghanaians don't really care where they are located.
And remember, the president is not the one who appointed the
Ghanaians care about the total number. How much they are supposed to pay.
Sorry, but let me bring
and finally, the figure is important. This is important.
Yes, finally.
Other staff on attachment. The total of other staff on attachment, and you are talking about parks and gardens and all those, Ghana Health Service. They are 299. 299.
Okay.
So if you add the 299, 117.
706.
117, and then you add the
706.
290.
Right. Thank you very much.
You get those
now, Prof, the question is that if you have people who are here in these numbers and are assigned to various duties, do you feel there will be a necessity to have the president appoint such an addition of almost 300 to assist?
Thank you. I think that if we look at our political system and the architecture that we have built, it gives sometimes calls for action that are not justifiable. The typical public or civil servant is supposed to work for a political party or work for government, irrespective of which political party is in government. And typically you would say that if that were the case, then if I came in and met 4 of you here working already, you are supposed to be neutral, you are supposed to be non-partisan, whatever those qualities are. And therefore I should be immediately able to rely on you to do the work that I think you should do.
Strong institutions.
Yes, and that work I think you should do would include statutory duties that you are required to do and political functions. But everywhere across the world, you would find that there are, anytime a political party comes into power, it comes with some, group of people who they think they trust.
So that's the question. How large should that group be, in addition to those who are already taking care of the place?
Well, I think that question, it's a very difficult question to deal with from where they sit. But I, as a taxpayer and as a public administration scholar, what I look at is to see exactly what these people do. What is the job description for these additional numbers of people? Have we asked our question, the question whether or not 5 people couldn't do the work that 200, 300 people are doing and all of that? Unfortunately, we do not often get political appointees get job descriptions that tell us the kind of things that they are supposed to be doing. And so if somebody came and justified that I needed 300 people, you will have no basis of questioning except to do an emotional argument. And that emotional argument is that, well, our tax money is being used and all of that. And so it's difficult. And if you have looked at why we have a certain padded staff already there, it's as a result of the consistent accumulation of residual political appointees. So this president comes and appoints some people. When they are about leaving, some of them would clandestinely find themselves into the mainstream civil service. And then they are not, we cannot do away with them. So you come, and if you attempt, because of our political system, if you attempt to throw away those people, you will get a sense of public reaction that, oh, you have come and you are dismissing people. So consistently, we have built that number of civil servants. And because of the problem of trust, when I come, I don't trust the people who are there. So then I have to bring people that I think I can work with. It's important to note, in my view, that the literature across the world shows that public civil servants to population ratio, Ghana is not doing well at all. There are some countries where you have, for example, in China, you have about 1 to 110 people. In some countries, for example, in Malaysia, it's said to be about 1 to 19 or thereabout. Because of the difficulties of our numbers, Ghana has something that is also considered to be very huge. Sometimes 1 to about 40, depending on what category of public service you use. And so I think that, and that is why I have a problem with the way we have doing the report. So the president reports to Parliament of the numbers and what happens. So consistently there is no action, there is no debate, and if we do the debate, it is the debate between the political class, and that debate ends up to say, well, if you come, you can also do what you want.
It's expected that the simple act of reporting to Parliament in itself,
it's a check.
It's a check.
Yeah.
Because can you imagine if there was no check?
Yeah.
And that no one was to know how many the president is interested in bringing on to work?
They would have appointed 2,000.
The truth is that there is also evidence to suggest that just by the disclosure of information to the public doesn't limit politicians from acting. Just by the disclosure, unless they are punished for it. And that punishment can come from us citizens when we revolt and say, look, you can't do this anymore. And then we
so what do you say? This is too costly for this country?
It is. Definitely, this is a very expensive. And as I talk about the expense, it's not just about the political class that is appointed, but also the civil servants. And we need to look at it broadly. if we have to do a systems diagnostic and prescription, then it is not helpful to concentrate on the presidency.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Some of them are equated to a certain grade, same as deputy ministers, so they take the same sort of salaries, right?
Oh yeah, some staffers are equated to ministers.
Ministers.
Yeah, to cabinet ministers.
Like an Article 71.
They take virtually the same salary as ministers of state.
Okay.
Yeah, and the issue about
and the last Buando report approved, I think, about a little more or less 15,000 Ghana cedis, but that was not the one that was eventually approved by Parliament. What was eventually approved by Parliament was an enhancement of what the report had given.
We are talking of presidential staffers in the real sense of the word. The ministers and those classified as presidential staffers in the true sense of the word, who should have been appointed indeed under the Act. Take the ministers out, but I'm talking of the staffers.
Right.
Though you can bring into the context of your question.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I'm asking.
Yes,
some of them.
not the.
Some of them.
Yes.
Yes. So some of these 290 appointees.
Let's be clear on
these 290 appointees.
Let's be clear.
Are taking salaries equivalent to deputy ministers and ministers.
No.
Yes.
Yes. That's what happened.
We have only 27 presidential staffers.
Let me.
Excuse me. Let's be frank with ourselves.
Go ahead.
We have 9 ministers
right.
of state at the presidency. We have 27 presidential staffers, senior and junior. We have 256 junior appointees, as you will call them, with various grades.
They cannot be part of
Then the president met a team of 700.
That's already been said. That's been said.
Can I finish?
No, we don't have time.
706.
We don't have time to be repeating
No,
this.
I'm just giving you this. So the question essentially, because of salary, the question essentially we should be asking, which we were all asking, is whether 256 plus 27 plus 9 is too much. That's what we should be asking.
Okay, thank you.
No, that's not true. That's not
that
true.
should be true.
No,
thank you.
Listen. No. Even when you assign somebody from a regular ministry or government agency to the office of the president on secondment, he gets allowances as a presidential staffer. So don't pretend that because the person has been assigned from a regular ministry, it is his salary at the ministry that counts. Okay. No, there is an enhancement. You get an enhancement at the office.
No, it's not.
The records are there.
It's not true.
The records are there.
Please allow Prof to finish. We are done with this subject.
So what's into the single spike? Please, it's not true.
Every state, expands. The population expands.
No allowance.
Population expands. Services to citizens expand. And therefore, typically you would expect some expansion in that. But elsewhere, what has happened is that there has been a consistent improvement in the efficiency of the public service, so that public servants we don't have to employ or keep increasing the numbers of public service. So for us, it is that which we are not doing. The interrogation of what the efficiency level of civil public servants are, which may not require us to have 10 people when we can have 2 people.
Right.
And that is why the issue about technology and all of those things coming. And the gentleman that sent you the message about he goes around and there are people lurking around and all of
that. They're idling around.
Yes. So you go into a lot of the agencies, and not just at the presidency, and you find.
But you see, we should be careful. Yes. At the presidency, there are people whose job may simply be to open a door and close. That should not be said to be an unimportant.
There's nobody like that. There is nobody whose job is to open door and close.
There is
nobody like that.
Look, there are people who do that. Go to the first staff.
Please.
All they do is open doors and they close the door.
But this is what the social media feels. No, but that's true. But if it's not corrected, if it's not corrected, if it's not corrected, that's what the social media will pick. There are people whose job all is to do is open the door and close the door. It's not true.
Look,
I disagree with him.
I'm saying that I can tell you the different locations at the presidency where somebody sits there and they're opening doors.
I disagree with him. There you go on. Yes, I disagree with you on that.
That is not true. I can say for a fact that is not true.
Okay. Now so you now want us to go into the details.
You can go
and ask what the job of lady in waiting is.
I'm saying that at the Flagstaff
House.
No,
lady in waiting.
Can I finish?
The lady in number 212 or so of the list. What is her job?
She attends.
You didn't mention the name of the lady. Mention for me.
Lady waiting attends the first lady.
Mention the name for me, and I'll tell you what the job is.
You attend to
But if you just say lady in waiting, what is that? Mention the name.
She attends to the first lady.
I think that
Including opening door for her when she's going in.
First ladies are not finish up. First ladies are not allowed people to open door for her.
It is the fact that we cannot expect that with an expanded population, with a lot more of us asking for more services, the list of people in the public services, civil services will remain the same. It will increase. What we need to be able to put a check on, like you said, is the list of political appointees, and it is important for us. It's important for us to get where the discussion should be on what people do when they are appointed. So when we say somebody is a steward, what does the person do, and things like that, and it should be clear. It cannot be out of somebody's magnanimity that once I appoint people and I tell you the person is like this, then you should accept it like that. We should be able to interrogate one after the other what these descriptions are and what these people do. And if that becomes the case, there's also one aspect of it that we haven't done. As a country, we are developing. So there are a lot of new services and new things that we like to do. And there are things that are getting outdated and we are not doing anymore. But there are people who were appointed and are still on jobs who are supposed to be providing services that nobody is asking for anymore. Okay. And so we need to consistently, retool the civil service in terms of the people who are in there. There are people we need to take off, and there are people we need to bring on. Right. Otherwise, we will continue to have this discussion. And the value addition for me is that it should not just end with Parliament. Parliament should be able to take this discussion further, or civil society should be able to take this discussion further, and ask the president to give us the job description of people that have been listed.
And if that becomes 2003 has that all those issues
were discussed.
Right. Okay. So one of people's concerns again is about the number of persons having the same title to do sort of the same thing, or similar things. There are quite a number. You see like a whole list. Look, if you look at, I know you say if you know better what their job is, you find that is this. But if you look at assistant technical officer, there's a huge number of that, more than running over 15 or so.
But that's one we should be civil service staff. We should be asking the civil service what their job description is. Okay. But I can tell you,
if you come to technical advisor, there is also an equal number.
Yeah, but
if you come to IT,
when you
see that's the problem.
Excuse me. Let me just say something.
It's difficult for us.
When you take that list, then you go to Appendix B4, where it stated other ministries and departments under the presidency. So then it's about 16 departments.
So you get them.
Then you get where each person is fitted in.
Right.
That's how you. So they are posted in.
We take a break. When we return, we'll find out whether or not there's been some dishonesty in the double salary.
Double.
We'll be right back.